Hello, welcome to Staring into the Abyss, and big up to all our listeners. With me, as always, is Matt Brandenburg.
Hi, everybody.
And Vitlaman Mist.
Oh, Errol's fiery tits. We're back again.
Can I, before we get super into everything, I will say our discussion today is I guess you could say short novel, The Dead Cattails Assassins.
Yep.
By Djèlí Clark. I always pronounce his name wrong, and I feel bad. I know it's a pen name, too, and I feel bad I always pronounce it wrong.
Yeah, I always say Djèlí Clark.
Yeah, Djèlí Clark.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I never expected a fire goddess to speak in a Jamaican patois.
Oof. Yeah.
That caught me off guard a little bit.
You should have listened to the audiobook like I did.
I listen. Matt knows this about me, but I listened to enough like reggae and old Peter Tosh interviews and like really deep into Jamaican stuff that like I could just imagine in my head just as soon as I read on the page.
Okay.
It's like, but I'm sure the audio narrator killed it when it came to that part.
She killed it. Like the narrator was amazing.
Yeah.
It was just so unexpected because you have this like giant fire goddess, and then like
who has tentacles. By the way,
Milady word.
The fire goddess has tentacles.
Yep, tentacles coming out from inside her legs.
Awesome.
And speaks in just a full Jamaican patois.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It was the best. I love that. Like as soon as that got revealed, I was like, this is the best. I love this. I love this so much. But yeah, no, this is a really fun short novel. Before we get in, I definitely recommend the read. It's very different from because we did his
We did Ring Shout
novella before. This is a very different vibe from Ring Shout.
Yeah. This is more lighthearted. It goes into like a D&D territory.
Nice.
Yeah, this one's more kind of a humorous fantasy short novel, where Ring Shout was very heavy.
Yeah.
I want to read his Dead Djinn books, but I just haven't got around to it yet.
I ordered like one of the short story. I think that does happen in the Dead Djinn world. It was like
Dead Djinn Cairo.
Yeah, let me check what it was called again.
Or like rail is like Dead Djinn in Cairo, rail car something.
Yeah, let me check. Yeah, Dead Djinn in Cairo. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to read more of his stuff, but yeah, just like literally. I just don't know. I just as soon as the stuff came into play, I was like, "Oh, this is so much fun." But before we get into the full discussion, I think it would be fun to give like a media rundown of some stuff we've been consuming this week. Where I will say my week's been pretty much me reading this, and I finished the last 5 episodes of Cobra Kai because I'm a sucker for Cobra Kai.
How was it? I still haven't finished it. I think I'm on season 2 or 3.
So you're at like the prime part for Cobra Kai.
Okay.
Like season 2, 3, and 4 are like peak Cobra Kai, especially 2 and 3. It gets kind of messy in 5. And 6 is them trying to wrap up all their plot lines. Which
does it work?
It works. It is a very satisfying conclusion to the series. I will say they nailed the landing, despite how messy the series kind of got a little bit at the end.
Messy jump, but succeeded the landing.
Yes, and also you still get some sick fight scenes. Because I think one thing that sets Cobra Kai, like season 1 Cobra Kai is kind of funny because it's like, Karate Kid, but Johnny's story from the other side, and then Cobra Kai kind of morphs into something else as it goes, but it still keeps that like lightheartedness about it, which is something I appreciate about Cobra Kai. It's like cheesy, but the right kind of cheesy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
cheese.
It's like the wholesome thing.
Yeah,
it's not completely junk food, but at the same time, you're like, I know this is not particularly good for me, but I still enjoy it.
Oh, it's so much fun, and they do have some pretty intense moments. Like, did you finish season 2 or no?
I can't remember. It's been so long.
Well, I'm gonna say like season 2 is like they have a big karate fight in the school at like the climax, and then one of the character breaks his back.
No, then I have not finished season 2.
And there's a whole like outfall from that goes on. Like Cobra Kai it gets in some pretty interesting narrative places. But season 6, all of a sudden there's this brand new international karate tournament that has all these different like karate students from all over the world studying different deadly types of karate, and they have to enter because Ralph Macchio's character wants to spread Miyagi's message to the world, and then big drama happens from there on out. And the final 5 episodes,
just karate.
Yeah, it's battle royale.
And none of it's good karate. It's all like it's not real karate.
Yeah, exactly.
And then by the end 5 episodes, lots of shit went down. But all the characters, like emotional arcs that they've been doing through the series, all find a very satisfying conclusion. So it makes it from like kind of a junk food show to be like, you know what? Finally, a TV show stuck the landing.
I think it's crazy. There's 6 seasons.
Dude, honestly, when I started watching Cobra Kai, there were 5 seasons, and I was like, I had no idea there were 5 seasons of this.
Yeah, that's insane.
And this is a Netflix show, isn't it?
It was originally a YouTube Red show.
Oh.
Season 1 was a YouTube like exclusive. Like you had to subscribe to YouTube Red to watch it.
Oh wow!
And then Netflix got the rights to it on season 2 and on.
Yeah. It's like that's amazing that they managed to last that long.
Yeah.
It's what LeMay?
I was like, it's amazing that they managed to last that long, considering it's Netflix.
Yeah, right. Especially considering it's Netflix. But it's also, I think, like the fact that it started on YouTube Red kind of shows like how low budget it was in the beginning.
Yeah,
and like how much it did become a cultural phenomenon a little bit. Like, there's so many people I know that was like they were hyped that the new Cobra Kai season was coming out, and it was kind of cool just to see people excited over a TV show again.
Right.
And I think we can all agree lots of TV shows kind of fuck up the end.
Oh yeah, they last too long.
They last too long, or they rush something, or they just can't close the arcs, or they drag it out too long. But like, it's very rare that I end a TV show satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to the writing for Cobra Kai. Despite its cheesiness, despite its campiness, it's a satisfying show. It's like a junk food binge. Only you don't think you're going to have a heart attack after.
I think the only season, the only series that I felt like had a really satisfying ending, and just like, I know they will not touch this more, is The Good Place.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Good Place had a good ending.
Yeah. Like, it tied everything up. It had a good message, and surprisingly left you with hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think The Good Place did a really great job wrapping everything up.
Yeah.
No, that was what I enjoyed a lot. There was also, well, I mean, it's still, I think, I gotta think, because so many TV shows have such meh endings.
Yeah.
I think Curb Your Enthusiasm had a solid ending for its final season. But I'm also a sucker for Curb Your Enthusiasm. But I'll pass this over to Matt. I got a couple more, but we'll go around.
All right. So I guess the big one is I did see Captain America: Brave New World.
Holy shit, you did?
Yeah.
So I have one question for you. Did they end up rewriting that Israeli character? Because I know that was a big controversy for the movie.
I don't know. I mean, like,
Okay.
she's in it. I don't know if they had a different story for her and then changed it. I didn't follow any of that, so I have no idea.
It's
But
an
she's in
Icelandic
it.
actor in it. Did you
But
know?
it just came out yesterday.
Yeah. Did you know that there's an Icelandic actor in it?
I did not. Who?
He's the
I'm try-
one he's the one who is beating up Mackie.
Oh, really?
And he's like, do you need a minute?
Yeah. Well, he was great for. I mean, he's only in it for like a second, but he was entertaining.
Yeah. He's actually getting more. His name is Johannes Höger,
Okay.
and he's getting more and more roles in Hollywood now. It's like he's almost getting like on the same level as Awww.
Okay.
And I've actually heard that he's gonna play in a live action movie about He-Man.
Oh my god. As He-Man?
I don't know if it's He-Man. For me, I'm like, I kind of look at him like, no, he could be a good man at arms, I think.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, yes, Captain America, Brave New World. It's decent. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just decent.
I'm going to interrupt you 1 second, Matt, because this made me look up the He-Man movie that's coming out. And you know who's playing Man at Arms?
Who?
Nope.
Idris Elba.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
That Icelandic actor plays Malcolm / Fisto.
Oh,
I need to tell Gunnar. Okay, I'll tell him.
Okay, I'm sorry. You take that. That's sad.
That's really funny. Yeah, so it's good. It follows a lot of the beats of the other movies. Like, I mean, almost beat for beat. Winter Soldier, just not as good as Winter Soldier. The mystery is kind of non-existent. Like, they kind of explain it away all the way throughout, so you're never really surprised. And the ending, which I don't know, I'm not gonna spoil it because it's new, but just the ending was like a real kind of gimme ending where they were just like, yep, it's all wrapped up, here you go, really nothing of consequence happens. But there are some shining moments for anyone who watched Captain America and Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, that show. The Isaiah character has like a great role in this, and if you've seen the trailers, you know he's in it. All of his scenes are great, and in this day and age, very powerful. So that was a shining moment. I would have liked more with him, but I liked what we got. And Anthony Mackie's great. I think he's a great actor, so he did awesome in it, but it's just the writing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're kind of at this weird point where they're like just trying to wrap up all the old stuff so they can get to the newer stuff.
Yeah.
And so it felt a little bit like that. And then again, like, I guess the big thing for me anyways is all the stuff that happens, and like part of and this isn't a spoiler, but part of one of the topics in the movie is like creating a new Avengers. Now, you don't see anybody, so that's not the spoiler, but just this idea of like, we need Avengers again. And that kind of felt like the downside to this too, and you could feel it when there's like these big things happening that you might have seen in the trailer regarding Red Hulk, and you're like, why is nobody else around to like even help with this or even comment on this?
Yeah.
And so that you can feel that, where it's just like, okay, like you could have at least showed a scene of Mark Ruffalo on a beach going like, not my problem or something, but just show us stuff. And there's a lot of exposition, which I guess is fair if you've not seen this show. Falcon and Winter Soldier, or even the Incredible Hulk from 2008. They do explain a lot of that, but also it's them trying to figure out, like, and I guess that's just like they should have had a process where they knew they were making shows and movies. They should have had some sort of way to like make it easier than to like literally just stop the movie and have us watch a news broadcast that covers everything previously that happened. It's just like, okay, this is kind of weird. So anyway, it's decent. If you're a Marvel fan, you're gonna go see it regardless of what I say. If you're on the fence, I mean, it's fun to see in the movie theater, but I'm sure you'd be fine if you saw it at home too. So, and then there is one end credit scene that's at the very, very, very end. And it again kind of reveals stuff we already knew. So it like it was fine to see it, but at the same time I was like, oh, that's all. And so anyways, that's one for me. I have one more after that.
I will say I was waiting for Disney Plus for that one. I think the next Marvel movie I'm actually going to see in theaters is probably Fantastic Four. Yeah. And that's because I love the Fantastic Four. And I know this movie is probably not going to be good, but I'm still hoping it's going to be good.
It could be good. It looks cool.
It could be good. I like Fantastic Four a lot.
Yeah, I'm optimistic.
Also, before giving it to Vitlame, there's another Icelandic actor who's also in the He-Man movie.
Really?
Really? Who?
Yeah, Hafthor.
Oh no, the Mountain.
Yeah, the Mountain. He plays Goatman.
I honestly had no idea they were making a He-Man movie.
Yeah, he plays Goatman.
Okay.
And Jared Leto's in it too.
Well, never mind.
Yeah.
He plays Skeletor.
What?
Yeah, Jared Leto's Skeletor.
No, it's always going to be Mark Hamill.
I don't know why they
maybe they'll dub Mark Hamill's voice like Darth Vader and James Earl Jones.
I guess.
I doubt it. I doubt Jared Leto.
I doubt it too.
I don't know why they keep giving him movies.
Do you have any recommendations?
Not. Well, it's just what I consumed. Like this week has been really busy at work, so I haven't really consumed a lot of media per se. Like I've been watching. I got an account for World of Wonder, so I've just been catching up on all my RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes. Honestly, I've been watching Dungeons and Drag Queens. That's been my big thing. So.
Oh yeah, I need to watch that. I've heard so many good things about it. But we did finish just this morning. Actually, we did finish the FX show Grotesquerie.
How was that?
I'm still processing it.
How was the Kelsey brother as an actor?
Who?
Was it? There's like a football player that's in that. I forget which one.
Oh,
Travis Kelsey, I think.
Was that him?
He had like a big beard, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, he immediately springs to mind. I mean, he was okay. I mean, I had no idea he was a football player, but it's it's a typical Ryan Murphy thing.
Oh, I was gonna ask because I don't know this show at all.
Yeah, like he's producing this. He's not the guy who was mostly directing it. Well, one of the guys who had most direction was Max Winkler, actually. Henry Winkler's son.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So the show is about this detective in a small desert town. Her name is Lois Tryon, and she gets the task of trying to solve a series of really grotesque murders that are happening in the town. And props to Ryan Murphy. Like, the murders were gross; they were really visceral. And she, for some reason, like a nun pops by, and she's like, "Hey, I'm like a journalist, and I'm writing for the Catholic Guardian. Can I join?" And he's like, "Okay." And like it has a lot of it has all these people, like me, like when my husband and I were watching it, we were like, we do not relate at all to any of these people. Like, you did not have any sympathy for them at all. Which is hard for me because I always use, like, if the person is bad, it's fine. If you can redeem yourself, I'm fine. That is fine. But these people were unredeemable. Like Lo is the main detective. Like, she's like almost like the chief of police almost, and she was like drunk the entire fucking time. And she was like
chief of police.
No, she wasn't. Like, she was the main detective, like the best detective in town and stuff. And she kept telling, like, there was a lot of telling and not really showing. She kept like telling people, like, I've solved all of these cases. You wouldn't be here without me. And I was like, give me an example. Like, I haven't seen any like of you doing that. You're just showing us. You're just telling us that. And yeah, she was like always drinking while at the job, and I'm like, how is no one like seeing anything? You're just gonna let that pass? And then, and you know, her daughter, she's like morbidly obese, and she's trying to get on like this TLC show called Halftime Trauma or something like that.
Oh my god!
And they basically have this, kind of like a deal between them. Like, if you don't tell me not to stop eating, I won't tell you not to stop drinking. And I'm like, yeah, that's healthy.
This
like,
sounds so Ryan Murphy.
Yeah,
it's
like
just
super toxic. It's super toxic, and I'm like, Jesus, how can you root for these people? And then we kind of like, it kind of goes on. She like, more of these murders happen, and then she catches the killer. And my husband and I were like, that can't be the end, because we're still like, we have 5 episodes left. And then there's a huge twist. And I can't tell you the twist because it's a huge spoiler.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird, because at one point, like, and this is not a twist, at one point it goes kind of like into describing what is happening in America at the moment, like with the incels.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, why are you shoving this in now? Because you had not given any indication that this was happening throughout the episodes. Like, he was just showing, like in the show, they was just showing that her husband, who was in a coma, was a cheating asshole. You know, he was a philosophy professor, and he was always cheating on like with the students and or something like that. Which is why kind of like the catalyst why she decided to drink. But I was like, this is not an indication that all of these men that come together and they're like, we need to go back to our traditional values. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, we need to make things right and keep fighting what's right. And I'm like, why? That's where Travis, was his name Kelsey? I have no idea what his name is.
Oh yeah, his last name is Kelsey.
Yeah, he comes in there and he's like kind of leading the group, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, I don't.
That's hilarious.
Maybe this will get explained in season 2 if there is a season 2. I don't know. It just kind of ended on that, and I'm like, you gave me crumbs, and I need the whole pie to know what's happening. So it's like he just sprinkles shit around, and like, this is it. This is the story. This is the social commentary that I'm talking about. And I'm like, no. You didn't do it well.
Yes.
Like, I appreciate the fact that he's like addressing this, but it's like he didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Murphy's, that's usually typical of Ryan Murphy too. Like, what was it, that American Horror Story season that dealt with the Proud Boy, Make America Great Again?
Yeah.
People. Yeah.
They hated that season, didn't they?
I thought that season, I think they did. I thought it was an okay season. It wasn't my favorite American Horror Story season.
No.
But it wasn't terrible.
My
favorite's always going to be Rowan.
Which one is your favorite?
Roanoke.
Oh, Roanoke. Okay. My favorite is Coven.
That's a good one too. I like Roanoke a lot. Roanoke's one of the few American Horror Story seasons that actually scare me,
Nice.
which is uncommon for American Horror Story, but Roanoke got there for me.
Yeah, it's not like it doesn't like the show isn't really scary per se. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. I will say though, like Grotesquerie sounds like it could be a fun watch.
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes. I think like my husband and I, like the reason we kept watching was because we wanted to see like who the fuck is doing all this weird ass religious type killings.
Yeah.
So we were watching because of that, and then afterwards when the twist came, we were like, okay, we kind of need to continue to see where this is gonna go.
Well, I'm gonna check it out next week.
Because we can't really stop from there. Like, no, like even though we hate the characters, they're not like unredeemable. Like,
Yeah.
Like there was one scene though after the twist. There was one scene between Lois and her daughter, which I will commend. It was really good. Like this, like it had a lot of motion in it. So I was like, okay, this is a good scene. But then afterwards, I was like, and the rest is shit.
Yeah.
But
I might check it out next week. I'm on break, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to check out. Like I said, I went in it for the kind of murder mystery kind of thing because I like those. Like the gruesome, the better.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, even though we didn't really like it, it was still kind of like refreshing to have these kind of unredeemable characters. You know, like they weren't caricatures really.
Unredeemable.
Like they were complex. But like, I still think the delivery could have been better.
Yeah. Honestly, I prefer a nice unredeemable character. You know, give me a scumbag that like I don't really feel comfortable rooting for, but I'm intrigued enough to see where their story goes.
Yeah. This is why I like, for example, Butcher and The Boys.
Yeah, like have you ever seen?
He's a complete fucking asshole douchebag of this century, but I still like you have a plan for what you're doing, so I just want to see how you're gonna carry that fucking plan out without killing everyone around you.
Did you ever see the movie Good Time with Robert Pattinson?
No.
That's like my favorite scumbag character, but you want to see where the movie goes. Movie.
Okay.
It's like
is it old?
It's about 2015, 2016.
So after he was clawing his way out of Twilight.
Yeah, it's when he was his indie film phase, just kind of doing whatever he wanted to, really.
Yeah.
This one he plays a criminal who has a brother with a mental disability, and the beginning of the movie is him and his brother robbing a bank. And then while they're running away from the bank heist, the brother gets arrested by the cops. And the movie follows our character as he has 24 hours to get like $10,000 to pay for his brother's bail.
Oh, okay.
And it's a fucking intense movie. But you sympathize for his character because you understand like how much his brother means to him. But it's also like, man, you're just a fucking asshole. Everything you're doing, you're such a shitty person. Speaking of another murder show, but without the mystery, I caught the series finale of Dexter: Original Sin.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Which, okay. Dexter's a weird show where, like, it starts off really good. Like, the original TV show. And that show, by the end of it, just is a fucking mess. Like, Dexter starts off great. The first few seasons of Dexter, quality TV. After season 4, the series begins to get downhill, and by the end, it's like, what the fuck is this show? Then they did Dexter Resurrection, which was the sequel series, and it was like Dexter didn't really die, and now he's like kind of his hidden identity where he is now. And that show started off okay, but God, the ending of that show is terrible. And now they have a prequel series called The Original Sin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually really good. Like, it captures what made Dexter really good in those early seasons. My main criticism is it's a prequel show, so some of that tension's kind of gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in the show, it's like, how's Dexter going to get out of this one? Where you watch him because like there's one part where like he first kills his victims and he hasn't, he's not the full-fledged serial killer that he is in the show. The part of this is him kind of becoming what he's going to be later. And so his original method was he would kill the person, chop them up, and then dump them in the fucking Everglades and just would have alligators eat them.
Nice.
And there's one part where they find the hand of one of his victims. So you're like, oh shit. So it's supposed to be like, oh shit, what's going to happen? But really it's like, okay, I know he's going to get out of this, but how is he going to get out of this,
Yeah.
But besides that, like, all the actors are great. The actor who plays the young Dexter captures all of Michael C. Hall's mannerisms perfectly and feels like a young Michael C. Hall. The actor who's playing Vince Masuka looks so much like a young C.S. Lee and like really captures his manner. Like all the actors they casted were perfect for younger versions of the Dexter characters.
That's good.
Including casting Christian Slater to be Harry. Because Harry's not dead in this series yet. So like the whole series is like Dexter's graduated from high school. Harry's kind of been helping him tame his dark urge or what dark passenger or whatever. And Dexter gets offered a job as an intern in the Miami Metro forensics lab. And then he begins kind of doing all that stuff when you see kind of him coming into himself as a serial killer, but also him establishing his career as a forensic blood splatter analyst. And at the same time, someone is kidnapping children of people and taunting the police by cutting off their fingers. And Dexter's also getting involved in that. But it was a fun show. Like if you enjoy the old Dexter seasons, I'd recommend checking it out.
Cool.
But I have one more. If you have any more, Matt.
Yeah, I got one more. This is a somewhat old one, somewhat harder to find, and I'm pretty positive I didn't talk about this last week because I did finish it before last week, but it's been a crazy week. Anyway, is Throne of Bones by Brian McNaughton.
Yo, I read Throne of Bones over the summer. That shit's so fucking good.
Right? So this is a wild short story collection. It's
so fucked up.
Yes, that is the best word to describe it. So it's all short stories kind of centered around this town, and this town has this giant cemetery, and in this cemetery are ghouls which eat corpses, and it just the story so it's so hard to it's not hard to describe, but it's hard to like.
Can I just say, I love how the first short story feels more like a fantasy story with some sinister undertones.
Oh yeah.
And then you get into the second story, and it's like you don't get prepared for where that second story goes.
Yes.
Like the first story gives you this sense of complacency, and then everything else is like, oh, this is fucked up.
Yes. It's just it goes places you don't expect. It's very it's just these stories they're interconnected. Usually there's characters that kind of either pop up or are referenced in other short stories within this collection, or events that happened in one thing having an effect in something else. And it's just this like it, like Rich said, it's sort of a like fantasy setting. We'll say that as best as we can, and it's sort of
dark fantasy kind of fits.
Oh well, yeah, yeah, definitely.
But the first story is more of like a fantasy, and then everything else is dark.
Yeah, exactly. So it does have that like, but just that idea, just to give people in their heads, just kind of think of that kind of world or / town. You know, you're not dealing with the bigger fantasy stuff. You're just dealing with this town, but it's set in that kind of time frame. And he is not afraid to go places you don't expect. I will not say some of them, but he has no qualms just getting really nasty and dirty with events and things that happen, because the whole concept of a ghoul and becoming a ghoul is to be so depraved and non-human that you just turn into this thing. So it's like, it's not a bite, you know, it's not a curse or anything like that. It's just, you do absolutely horrible, terrible things, and eventually you will like just morph into this kind of ghoul.
Yeah.
And
he's not afraid to show you those horrible, terrible things.
Exactly. So like you see a lot of it. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. You know, there's some mega trigger warnings when you read this, but it's interesting to see somebody just go for it and not be afraid to describe some just nasty things that happen and stuff like that. It's interesting, but it's not done in a, I don't know, extreme horror kind of way. I don't know how to describe it other than like he just is very matter of fact with what happens, but he doesn't go into detail. I should say that. Like, you do see it.
Doesn't feel exploitative. Like extreme horror, they go into extreme detail where he's more matter of fact about what's going on.
Exactly.
And he doesn't linger on it. He keeps the story moving forward.
Yes. And I think that's like the saving grace, because it could be really hard to read for some people, but like it's not exploitive. He's not like having fun with this, just doing gross stuff, but he's not like I don't imagine him like being really like a creep. He could be a creep. I have no idea. I know nothing about this guy, but it doesn't feel that way. But at the same time, just like as a warning, you're like, he's not afraid to go places with the stories.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Anne Vandermeer a couple years ago.
Yeah,
because I was on a panel with Anne a few years ago, and I was talking about the Big Book of Fantasy anthology that her and Jeff put together.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned like, oh, how become Nothing from Throne of Bones like made it onto this, because it is a pretty seminal like short story collection from that time period.
Yeah.
And she's like, we both really wanted to include one or two stories from that, but we both decided that it was probably too much for modern readers.
Fair. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. There's some really interesting concepts in there. I think for people, because every once in a while you see people asking about interconnected short story collections and like what recommendations people have. I think this is a good one for that, because you could theoretically just read one each short story does stand on its own. You don't need to read them all to understand what's happening in the current story. It just helps give you more of that world. I think that's like one of the bigger things that I could see this as a whole, is he is really building this world story by story. So having read all of them, you appreciate more of the little things he references. But again, like if they did end up putting this in that fantasy collection or anthology, like you would be fine. You wouldn't be lost reading it. And so I think that's like a huge, that's a neat thing. So when people are asking, I think that's like a good recommendation. You just have to kind of look past some of the like more gross stuff and just some of the scenes and stuff like that in here. But it was a cool read. It was definitely something I was like, okay, like this is good stuff. I'll accept that it's just the written word and all that thing too. But yeah, Throne of Bones, Brian McNaughton, definitely recommend that.
Nice.
my last one is actually going to be Interplanetaries by Clark Ashton Smith.
Okay.
And have either of you ever read Clark Ashton Smith before?
No.
Yes.
What have you read, if you remember, Matt?
I don't. I'm looking right now to see if I have the books in front of me.
Because I think we should do a Clark Ashton Smith episode soon.
Yeah, I think so.
Planetaries is a collection put out by Hippocampus Press, and
Nice.
it is all the interplanetary tales and poems from Clark Ashton Smith.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, like, because what Clark Ashton Smith would do, like, so Queth's a very famous short story cycle from him, which is like Earth as it's about to end, essentially. It's these far fantastical fantasy stories set 3,000 years in Earth's future, where, like, Interplanetaries is like pulpy sci-fi a little bit, but like from the 1920s.
Okay.
1930s. So, like, the first story is called To the Demon, or Damon. And literally, it's about these two Earth travelers who end up stranded in Mars. And they're in the big Martian capital city among all these different alien races, and they have no dollars to their name. And they're trying to get money so they can afford a flight to get back to Earth. And while they're there, they get summoned by this entity who wants to see them. And this entity is given the name, I forget the name it's given, but it's given this name that all the Martians view him as their double, essentially. Oh no, it's Voltum's story. All the Martians view this character as kind of their double figure in their folklore. And so the humans go down and visit him, and he offers them a deal. And he goes, and he's this giant thing of like plants. Like, he grows his vines. He's extending like this like interconnected plant system that kind of spreads from his body. Nice. And essentially it feels like he wants to take over a whole planet. Like, he wants to expand so much that the entire planet's him. And he gives them both. He gives them a proposition saying, I will pay for you anywhere if you deliver these seeds to that planet.
Nice. I love it.
And then it becomes this ethical like argument between like the two human characters and him trying to convince them, and because he wants to just consume a planet. And you kind of see this whole like thing like play out between all of them. And the climax was super fun. Then there's another story that deals with another humans on Mars, and they climb down into a Martian cave where they encounter this primordial alien race that wants to consume their eyeballs. And like, it's just like fun, like adventure sci-fi stuff, you know? Like, it's not super harped on the science. It's more like Edgar Rice Burroughs and A Princess of Mars and all that stuff.
That's cool.
And it's a lot of fun. And like, I'll say it, for Lovecraft and the people who are Lovecraft's contemporaries, because him and Clark Ashton Smith were friends. He was a contemporary of Lovecraft. Clark Ashton Smith is a much better writer. He's a much better writer, and these short stories are super fun if you want a taste of like 1920s, 1930s adventure sci-fi horror stories. Interplanetaries by Clark Ashton Smith is a really great way to go about it.
That's awesome.
But let's transition into our discussion, the Dead Cattail Assassins.
Yeah. So what's this about?
So it's about dead cattails that actually are assassins. So like, I'm joking. It is. I mean, I think the best way to put it is, and Vitlamay could probably maybe put it a bit better, but I would say it follows our character named Aveen, who is an assassin, and she's also a corpse. She doesn't remember anything about her life as a human, but the Assassin's Guild she works for essentially uses magic to bring people back from the dead and use them to carry out assassinations and killings.
But don't forget that they do it by basically entrusting their soul to the goddess. Ariel, goddess of assassins.
Ariel and her fiery tits.
Yes. Basically, when you're resurrected, you are under her kind of command. Like, you have to obey her laws.
Nice.
Yeah. And with that as well, like, if you break any of the contracts or any of the agreements with Ariel, you're dead. You're done. She's going to use her hounds to consume you. And so I'll leave it with the summary with our story really picks off with Aveen given a contract to ship somebody, and she comes across this person that she's supposed to take care of, and it's a younger version of herself.
So, and the story basically goes from there, where they are trying to figure out how that happened. How is there a younger version of her in her timeline, and whether they can kind of circumvent the contract without both of them dying.
Yes.
Okay.
And the story is a lot of fun.
I really like Clark has a really good knack of world building.
He really does. He like this is a fully realized like fantasy world with its own mythology.
Yeah.
And a story that just reaches 200 pages.
Yep.
So you don't need Brandon Sanderson writing 1,000-page tomes of 10-book series to flesh out a fantasy world, because Clark did it in 200.
Yeah, he did. And it was just really, and it was a really interesting world also as well. Was it, I can't remember, was it an island? Is it an island?
It felt kind of like an island. Like, I felt to me like you had an industrial city with a more island pier section to it.
I was thinking because Errol herself is has this kind of Jamaican patois.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking
super industrial.
Yeah, it felt kind of like it might have been inspired by Jamaican, like the island clusters in the Caribbean.
Yeah, and it might have been. And then Ariel comes, like, I will say too, all the characters speak in like pretty standard English for the text. Like, there's no specific accent. Then Ariel comes out with and she's full on fire with giant tentacles for legs. Like, I remember, what was it? Sky was like, what was it? Why do you say Ariel's fiery tits? Yeah. She's all on fire.
Yeah, she's all fire. And why just not Ariel's fiery tentacles?
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, what? That's so stupid. And then she uses that and he's like, actually, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. That works too.
And then Ariel just speaks in the full-blown Jamaican accent.
Yep. Yeah, I listened to the audiobook, and like I said, the narrator nailed this. I'm not too familiar with the Jamaican patois, and it was a little bit hard for me to understand what she was saying because she put on a hard ass accent.
I honestly, I think if you were to read this, it would have been more difficult for you than listening to it once Ariel started speaking.
Really?
Yeah, because it's spelled out as it would be in patois.
So phonetically patois.
Yeah, so it's I'm not trying to be offensive when I do this, so don't cancel me. But it's like it says here, it's the goddess smacked her lips. What the rascal? How could you make a choice you not see yet? And it's WADRASSGYALHOWCYAAHYUHMEK.
Okay, I mean, I think I can probably decipher it from reading it, but and the way you said it, I heard it completely and understood it. But she put on a thick fucking accent.
You gotta have those R's go really hard when you're doing it.
It felt like she was eating fish while she was reading this. It was really
honestly,
thick.
some of these sentences I had to read twice because I could understand patois pretty well, but like I love like the idioms that they use and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Like what was it? The good one was it was like, what kind of nonsense this? Monkey not chase alligator.
Ew. Yeah.
Or it's like that was a good one. It was also like the whole thing was just great. Like I think like you have this big fiery god and you expect this really deep kind of like demonic voice.
Yeah.
And the fact it's like a full-blown Jamaican accent is like low-key hilarious. But like I also really appreciate that they did it that way because it makes it pop a bit more.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of connects with the feeling that this is supposed to be kind of like inspired by Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So there's this to further that point. Actually, there is this scene in the book when because once they figure out discover that this is Eileen's younger self, they try to go to the guild for help. They're not getting any help from the guild that she belongs to. She's like, nah, sorry. The guild master's like, nah, sorry. If you break the law, we're gonna come after you. Like, if you are not gonna finish the job, if you're not gonna kill this girl, I'm gonna send other assassins to do it. And so basically, they're on their own, and true to her word, the guildmaster, she sends a couple of assassins after her. One of which was actually really good. It was, and I don't know how it was kind of like written, like how you read it in the book, but in the narration of the audiobook, it was so perfect. It was kind of like he described himself as the spider. This assassin, and he was fighting with these like steel wires, kind of like piano wires. Like and he was kind of like, and for how I imagine it, it was kind of like the puppet master in Naruto. And the way he was speaking, he just really did his voice like this, trying to make it as creepy as possible. It's like, now you've entered the web of the spider. and then the younger girl, Sky, she's like, but you're wearing a cat mask. And he's like, what? Like, yeah, aren't you a cat? You're a cattail. You're an assassin. Why are you wearing a cat mask? And it just completely throws him off, and he just goes back to his usual, like, normal voice, like, oh, no. You actually, I am called the spider, but I'm also a cat, so I'm a cat spider.
No, spider cat.
Oh, spider cat. Yeah, spider cat. And she was like, that's even more stupid. And he's like, no, I mean, it's spider-cat. And then he was like, oh, where was I again? Oh, yes. And then he goes back to using the creepy voice. And this was such a classic moment of D&D.
Yeah.
And I was just laughing my ass off at that scene. It was so funny.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, the book had a really great sense of humor about it.
There was one thing that I feel like he could have maybe omit. Like, for me, that kind of threw me off a little bit. Was that he used the term neckbeards and edgelords.
Yes, edgelords was used quite a bit. Neckbeards, I only remember seeing like maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
But edgelords was used quite a bit.
Yeah, that threw me off a little bit. It kind of threw me off the fantasy thing. And it felt like it was more kind of he making fun of them. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you make fun of these guys, but this is kind of weird, though. Like, you were actually making them magicians?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say, I'm actually looking at the acknowledgments of the book now. And just the first sentence, are you ready?
Yeah.
Another novella, The inspiration for this one came from a jumbled mix of old Forgotten Realms stories I read as a kid,
Yes.
and a host of flicks ranging from The Long Kiss Goodnight to Dance Hall Queen.
See,
awesome.
told you, D&D.
So yeah, Forgotten Realms is a big inspiration on this.
That's super cool.
You can see that, especially when he's like describing the world, how it was built, and the gods, especially.
Yeah, though those honestly, the gods were so cool.
Yeah. I also really love the way he described like the basis of the story, like in Telebisi. Like this is all happening during a festival. And he built such a good story, like history around that festival. I was super intrigued by it. It was basically about this kind of like pirate princess who stole like a man-made woman made out of like a machine. It was supposed to be like the greatest treasure from a king called the Clockwork King.
Yep.
And she stole that away, and while she was captive, they actually fell in love. And just the story behind it was really beautiful. I was like, damn, that's good.
I love the whole thing with like the Clockwork King and stuff like that. The Shimmer as well was really cool.
Yeah, it was really good. And also, just, like I said, he sprinkled so many world buildings without people actually knowing. Like, there's a scene in when Aveen is going to talk to the guildmaster. And the guildmaster is having some company, someone from out of the country, like a foreigner. And the foreigner just basically just like, hey, tell me a story. And the guildmaster just picks up a book and she tells this really intriguing story that has nothing, that has really nothing to do with the core point of the story of the novella itself.
It was so interesting, though.
But it was so interesting.
It reminds me when I play like Baldur's Gate 3 and I come across a book and I just like have my character read the book and I'm like, whoa, this is so interesting.
Yes. That's the thing. That's the beauty of the Forgotten Realms books, because there are so many like little pieces sprinkled in that, doesn't really seem to have a point, but at the same time you're like, I really enjoyed reading about this or knowing this. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's like the world building is exceptional for 200 pages.
Really, really good.
And
do you have any like a little bit nitpicks?
I felt the story could have been a little bit tighter, narratively speaking.
Yeah, it dragged a little bit on.
There was a few times I was reading it where like I felt like I got lost in the narrative and I had to go back a few pages and reread. Just like reorient myself again.
Yeah.
I also felt that they could have done more with the side characters.
Yes, I agree.
Like I think Aveen and Sky have that great dynamic where like you have the future dead you of an alternate universe and then the past you of an alternate universe like working together is kind of a cool concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how one of her whole thing too is like when. Like, one of my favorite scenes is when Sky asks Aveen where they're going, and Aveen's like, Assassin's rule number, whatever, always have a hideout. And then Assassin's rule number, whatever, always have a second hideout.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to the hideout, and she's like, this is my old childhood home.
Yep.
Why is this a hideout? And, like, you kind of see that connection between the characters, despite Aveen having no knowledge of Sky or Sky's life, they still have that deeper connection.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really well like shown to us instead of told to us.
Yeah.
But like the other characters are very one note.
They were, yeah. Like I, for example, I enjoyed the other assassin, like the quad.
Yeah.
They were really interesting, and I was like, if you would have listened to the audio, she managed to give each of them different voices.
Nice.
So you were able to see like who was which, but at the same time, I kept like thinking these girls are interesting. I would have loved if he had delved a little bit more into this Assassin's Guild.
Honestly, I hope he does more with this.
I agree too, because there's I mean, as much as the world building was really condensed into this one book. I still feel like he can go a bit longer with it, explore more. Like I said, I want more from these assassins. Like, give me more of like what they want to do. Like, because you saw with Aveen, she had like, you can see that she had her like memories kind of returning to her. And with a quad, they were like, you had memories? You girl, you don't need that. But at the same time, you're like, but don't you want to know though? Like, you didn't really get that from them. It was like they were just there to fight Aveen. And that was also a part that I didn't quite enjoy, is that Aveen kind of felt indestructible.
She did, and I also kind of got lost in the fight scenes as well.
Yeah. I
felt those could have been like done a bit better. But Aveen was like, she felt OP.
Yeah, she felt really OP. That's what annoyed me the most. Like, yeah, you're undead, that's fine, but there should be more vulnerability.
Yeah,
especially for an undead. Like, what happens? Like, I think she only lost 3 fingers, but they were reattached afterwards.
Because she's undead, so her limbs can be reattached and then work again.
Yeah, but it's like there was no. I felt, because I know as readers that we probably, and because she is kind of like a fully developed character, she's already been doing this for like 100 years, but I still kind of would have liked to have this kind of feeling like, oh, I'm being reattached again. That's so weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Like, we needed a little bit more, like, this is so fucked up. Like, I'm losing my arm left and right, and this is fucking with my head.
Yeah. But
like,
I think
kind of needs that.
Came from, because Aveen has been doing the assassin thing for a while by the time we meet her as well.
Yeah.
So I think like all this is just whatever to her at this point.
I know, but I feel still that they should have at least added just this kind of like tiny note, Didn't have to be a lot, just tiny note, just to make us know, like, oh, damn. To make us as readers be like, shit, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because I felt, because there's one scene actually that made me like, actually, could you elaborate, please? Like, how is that gonna work? When she revealed that she actually has been sleeping with this one person, I'm like, is that necrophilia? Like, you're undead.
Yes.
Like, you're a living corpse. Why? And they just shake it off. They're like, the only thing that has happened is like Skye just kind of points at her like pussy, and she's like, so this works? and she's like, yeah, it works fine. I'm like, how though? Like, how is it for the guy who's fucking him? Like, does he like coldness? Like, what the hell? Because he has no warmth.
A great question.
I mean, this is the thing that will go into my head when I'm reading something like this, and I'm like, I would have want just a tiny note just to see, like, I mean, he likes it, whatever. So, but still, it's really enjoyable. Like I said, I really hope that he goes further into it, because he really has a knack for world building. He did the same. He did the same with Ring Shout.
He did. Like, and I don't know, I need to read his Dead Djinn books, because all I've read from is Ring Shout and now this one. But I still feel. Oh, I'm sorry, Rich. No, you go.
I still feel that Ring Shout should be made into a movie.
It was such a good book.
Like, this is one movie. Like, this is one book that would be great to be adapted into a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. But no, Ring Shout is a fantastic book. This book was also fantastic. Very different vibes, but it kind of shows his range as a writer.
Yeah.
Which, like, I want to read his Dead Djinn stuff now, because I'm like, I really like his writing style.
Me too.
And I think he has a knack at strong character voices. And I also like how kind of you can't really predict where stories are going to go. They always surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
And they always have really great payoffs. So the ending to the story worked really well. narratively, it was extremely satisfying to read.
I'm still a little bit confused. Maybe you can help me with the ending. We're gonna jump into a little bit of spoiler territory here, guys. So if you haven't read the book, you should do it now. If not, this is a spoiler for the ending.
I like how she uses those pulp novels she reads to try to convince Ariel.
Yeah, that was what she was doing, right? She just bullshitted her way through to trick the god, right?
Yeah, it's like it was really to trick the gods, more to convince the god, right? Because she's pretty much trying to say like, this is a past version of me, and then she's using this like character that she knows stories about to like convince the characters like. And in one of the stories, he meets a version of himself from the universe, and they don't get along, but they have this connection. And the same thing's happening to me. The same thing's happening with you, with the alternate you that's there now. So she's trying to be like, all like meeting like this isn't a breach of the contract because the contract was found, whatever. Like she was trying to find a contract loophole, essentially.
So, for context, for those of you who haven't gone that far, they basically...
Also, for those of you who don't play D&D, demons love contracts.
They do. They really... Not just demons, but also just gods in general.
Yeah, they love contracts.
They love their laws. That's the thing. Like, you always have to abide by it. So... how it leads up to is that they discovered that the person who actually contracted Aveen to kill her younger self was a high patriarch whose son she killed in cold blood.
So he wanted her to kill herself, essentially.
Yes. That was the only way, basically, to get rid of her because she's undead.
Yeah.
So they kind of cook up a plan to go against this because they know they can't go up against the High Patriarch because they're basically, it's kind of like going after the president, Can't really do that. They have money, they have power. I can do what I want. Kind of energy,
Yeah.
And, but they decide to actually, Sky, who is Aveen when she's younger, she's 19 years old there, and this is a minor nitpick that I kind of have to address in regards to the audiobook. She's 19 in this book, but she made her sound like she's fucking 10. And it was so irritating. I'm like, she's 19. No one talks like that when they're 19. And they're like, yeah, she's supposed to be naive, but you do not take naive for a 10-year-old girl. Anyway, that's beside the point. They decided to make Sky actually become a patron to the goddess Arrow. She wouldn't be able to do that until when she was undead, but they decided to do that so they could invoke the god, summon her to this kind of trial. And that's when the two gods kind of meet each other. And it was I liked that part actually, because they were actually kind of ready to kill each other at the point. They were like, there can be no god, not just me, just me. I'm the only god. And they were just kind of getting ready to kill. And Aveen was like, okay, this is not your thing. We have to deal with my thing here. But so she used the story to kind of change the loophole, didn't she?
A little bit, yeah. And I felt too like she was trying to find a loophole. And she eventually got it. But that was when they were going to offer Sky the chance to go back to Sky's
timeline.
But then Sky wanted to use but the reason why the contract happened in the end is because Sky buys the contract before she leaves.
Yeah. And
she uses this coin from her timeline that doesn't exist here for this leverage wealth thing that's this is one of a kind thing. This will benefit you. So they're able to bend the rules a little bit for her. So Aveen can take the patriarch.
Well, they did it together.
Yeah, they did it together.
Yeah. Which I found kind of interesting, given given how Sky is. Sky is this person who is starting to become a surgeon. She's against violence in general and like murder, but then at this point she's like, oh, I have to slaughter this guy.
Well, I mean, I think part of it too is she. Again, the switch happens fast, mostly because it's a novella or a short novel. But it's like he tried to kill her, so why should she extend the same grace to him?
I understand that, but at the same time, like it's the switch was too quick.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's more just the tone of the story than anything else, and what he's trying to go for.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm on the acknowledgements page. It says here that he just want to have fun with this one.
He did what?
He just wanted to have fun with this one.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think he was thinking too hard about that stuff, because the whole purpose of this book was him having fun writing a story that he seemed to be a fun one.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But no, I totally understand where you're coming from, though, because it's not. Because you're like, oh, this is a very sudden character switch. I'd like to see more inner conflict or something going on with this character.
Yeah, it's like they could have had this kind of conversation, like when they kind of did, but it didn't really lead anywhere. Like when she sees the surgical tools in the safe house, she kind of like, I'm going to use this to help people, but you're using them to kill people. And I kind of like would have seen like a little bit more interaction. Like, I mean, if you're giving the choice, would you do the same? Like this kind of like interaction that would make Sky kind of like contemplate this.
I could see that.
Right?
Yeah, no, I think that would work. But yeah, no, I think overall, like, the bad guy got his dues, the good guys win.
Yeah.
It's a good story. Everyone's happy. We can escape in a fantasy world where bad guys actually get punishment instead of becoming president like in our real world.
Yeah. But I really recommend this story. Just if you want to get lost in like amazing world building, this is a book for you.
Same, and if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons or Forgotten Realms, and you're looking for something of that vibe, like, or you just finished playing Baldur's Gate 3 and you want some more of the same vibe, go with this.
Yep.
It is a wonderful time, and thank you for the recommendation, Vitlame.
Yeah, I figured you guys would like it.
And Vitlame, where can listeners get in touch with you?
I'm still lurking around Instagram at Fangs at Light. I'm also on Blue Sky at Vitlame Mist, and I'm also have signed copies of my book on my website at vitlamemistauthor.com.
Woohoo! Buy those books. I mean, our listeners buy those books. Not Vitlame. We want you to sell your books. And Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
Mostly Blue Sky at Brandenburg DM, and I guess my website, matt-brandenburg.com.
Nice. And you can get in touch with me over on Instagram and Blue Sky at Rudy53088. And the Abyss account is going to be tied to my Blue Sky account because you really can't do all the Blue Sky accounts at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that right now. But or this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.